This is Coda Radio, episode 155 for May 25th, 2015. Hi everyone, and welcome to Coda Radio, Jupiter Broadcasting's weekly talk show taking a pragmatic look at the art and business of software development and related technologies. This episode is brought to you by our two fine sponsors, DigitalOcean and Linux Academy. I'll tell you more about those great sponsors as this here show goes on. My name is Chris, and joining us every single week is our excellent host, established on the East Coast. Why, yes, indeed, it is Mr. Michael Dominic. Hey there, Michael. No!
Get out of here.
No, I feel like you assaulted me right out of the go. I've been attacked.
I like a strong opening.
That was like a war call, man. That was like a war call.
Well, I've been playing some of that Heroes of the Storm from Blizzard.
Sure, yeah.
And I don't know what it is. I think it's like a witch doctor or something. And though I don't play with the sound on, I'm pretty sure that's what it sounds like when you kill someone.
Yeah.
It's negative in the freedom
I don't know about that
dimension.
But okay. All right. You know,
Or Xena.
I feel like I just talked to you. I feel like you and I just had a conversation a couple of days ago. No? Okay. Did you watch
Our love is deep.
Did you watch Letterman's last episode? I'm just about halfway through it. Did you watch that kind of thing?
Do not have TV.
Oh yeah, I don't either. But that doesn't mean I can't watch it. So, you know, Mr. Dominic, it struck me during that show, but there's something I wanted to talk to you about, because to me it seemed like the perfect opportunity for developers. So coming up on today's episode, Mike's come across some pretty neat things that we're going to discuss, sort of like some projects of the week that we're going to feature and talk about, and a couple of them came out from the audience. And then I've got one more Google I.O. thing to talk about. We're not going to spend a lot of time on it this week, but there is one more thing, and guess what? Thursday is Google I.O. 2015, so one more thing to throw into the pile on that. We have a little hoopla to go to and some feedback as well, Mr. Dominic. But you know what? I was out at, I don't think you don't have La Haciendas in your neck of the woods, right? I think it's just like a local chain here.
Yeah, no, we don't.
But it's fine Mexican dining, and I was in there, and it was a pretty busy night, because, you know, it's, I guess it's Sunday. I guess people don't like to cook on a Sunday. I don't know what it is. And, I noticed something that's happening more and more, and I wondered if you've noticed this, and I don't know, maybe it's my age or what, but there was a time in my life, definitely when I was still in school, definitely, you know, more than 10 years ago now, but there was a time in my life when the only time I ever heard somebody use the term application or storage or transfer or download or upload, man, I remember the first time I was in public and I heard somebody use the word download. I mean, there was an entire language that I did not share with the rest of the populace, only with my other friends that were into computers, and there was only a few people that I knew. And so growing up, and then into my adult life, I witnessed a transition where the general public went from, when I started in my career, I was teaching adults how to use mice and how to click, and all these things. I went from that to now I'm at a restaurant last night, and every booth around me they're talking about their apps, they're talking about Facebook, they're talking about downloading movies. Like, every booth around us was all using this same common language that we now share. And what struck me about it was, now when I have conversations with people, I get to start with, like, all of this assumed shared common language and knowledge. Like, I no longer have to explain what a download is. I don't have to explain what an app is, or an app store even, or a smartphone. Like, all these things, like, I know, duh, Chris, but it really hit me last night when every single main conversation around me was technology related, and I thought, we have truly moved into a different era now, where it does make sense that there could be so many people creating so much code and so many applications, even though sometimes when we do this show, I'm like, you know, all these people listening all want to go out there and, you know, write and develop, and not all of them, but some of them want to go make money and make this a living. I'm thinking, you know, how many people can there be? But then last night when I'm out in public, actually seeing human beings in person, they stink, but other than that, they actually are really into this stuff. Like, it's becoming way more common. I'm in a kind of a hick town where this is happening. Have you experienced this? Have you witnessed this?
Yes, but when I go to cocktail parties, I tell people I'm a janitor because if you say you develop apps, you will ruin your night.
When I go, I say I do internet radio. Because now people are actually starting to get podcasts, but it's kind of like, it's still sort of in that, when you used to say I'm a blogger before there was like the Huffington Post and Engadget and the Weblog Incs and all that stuff.
So you're unemployed.
Yeah, right, yeah.
So, Chris, have you ever considered phrasing it maybe a little differently?
What's that? How would I do that?
Why don't you say you do a webcam show on the internet?
Wow. You know, I do those sometimes.
Really?
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, well, I'm doing one right now, actually. It's not very entertaining, though, but I'm actually, I do have a webcam turned on right now.
Oh, there he is. Oh, you've thinned out, you skinny bastard.
I'm just not wearing a jacket.
Take off the shirt. Let's see what happens. Oh, jeez. Oh.
You know what I got to say to that?
Holy get out of here. Get the hell out of here.
So I guess I wanted to take a minute and appreciate the state of the world we're in now, because podcasts are actually becoming a shared concept now, and I think a huge part of it. You can tell I went out to dinner. I was talking with a lot of people last night because it's got my juices flowing. A huge part of it is like everybody at the booth either had an iPhone or an Android, and they all had a podcast. Some people just were using the Apple podcast client, but the number one that everybody had was either Dog Catcher or Pocket Casts.
Yep.
And they all have it now. And I asked them all, because none of them are computer savvy. I asked them all, but they all have this basic knowledge now. I said, how did you listen to podcasts before you got Pocket Casts? And none of them listened to podcasts before that.
Of course not. Before they could search for them, how are they going to do it?
Yeah, and the one guy was like, well, I synced them to my iPod, and I would go when I would go on a hike. I was like, yeah. So the guy that had an iPod used iTunes, and all of you Android users didn't really bother, or you had used some other system or whatever. And I guess it seems to me like there's an opportunity. I guess I hadn't really verbalized it on the show, but I was getting to the point where I was worried that maybe it was sort of a false hope that like your best chance to really make this work was to go get a 9-to-5 and that was it, which is still a great option. But after last night, it just seems like there's a major appetite out there from the user base. I don't know. I feel all jazzed up. Now I'm ready to go into these developer conferences. I'm all fired up. Give us something good.
I tell you what, I will go with you to a developer conference if I can pick the conference and the shirt you wear.
Boy, that sounds like a risky. It's like, because like the ones I'd want to get to, the only two developer conferences I would think of would be really interesting. I guess there's a lot. Maybe a smaller one would be interesting.
Oh, there are so many ways I can get you on this. So if you want to do this, let's do it.
I've wanted to go to XOXO a few times.
Which one's XOXO?
It's like a design and development conference in Portland, I think. It sounds pretty cool.
It's in Portland?
I think so. I don't remember. Let me check out. It's supposed to be invite only, though, I think.
Chris, this appears to be a woman's clothing store.
Yeah, it sure does, doesn't it? XOXOfest.com. That's it. I think that's it. I think that's.
I thought you were making a big announcement today about your shopping trends.
Yeah, September 10th to the 13th, Portland, Oregon. That's all we know. That's all we
could do it. Chris, do you have any Hooters near your home?
No, they've shut them down. Yeah,
that's a shame.
Yeah.
Well, I'll get you a T-shirt.
Maybe
we'll take you.
Maybe I should come out to your area.
Well, here's the thing. I'm just going to take you to like a women's software conference and have you wear a Hooters T-shirt, and I'm going to walk away. And yeah, good luck.
He's a jackass.
Damn it, dude! Why you gotta do me like that? Why you gotta do me?
Or I'll take you to. Why don't I take you to Linux Fest Northeast, right? Because there is one. Or
sure.
Southeast.
Whatever. Yeah. Oh yeah, there is. That's going on in just a couple of days. Meetup.com/Jupiter Broadcasting.
We'll get you an Apple T-shirt from the Apple Store. Great.
And send me into a Linux conference.
Yeah, just have you carry an iPhone and a MacBook Air.
You know what condition I think I would do that under? I think there is a condition where I could be convinced to do that. And that when I think about it, it's like if it was like I could do it like if we were going to raise funds and like give some to a charity or like an open source project and like raise funds for the network and donate some to an open source project. And like the ultimate stretch goal would be Chris wears an Apple shirt to a fest. I think that'd be pretty good because I'm going to get kicked. So
honestly, I think you're safer doing the Apple shirt at the Linux conference than you are doing the Hooter shirt at the Women in Tech conference by a
Probably.
huge margin.
yeah, and
Yeah.
because I would get beat up by a bunch of women, and
No, you get beat up by men, right? Who have to show how progressive they are. That's
that's
what would
true.
happen. Right? It wouldn't be the women. They'd leave you alone as long. Right? It'd be the men.
That might be very true, actually. Mr. Dominic, we have you actually came across some pretty interesting little projects over the week, which I guess you must have found it over the weekend, since we talked just on Friday. But are you a fan of the Game Boy Advance?
I'm a fan of Sonic the Hedgehog.
Oh, man. Yeah.
And we don't need to go into my Sonic philosophy of software again because people thought I was stoned. But if you follow that link, you're going to get to a GitHub IO page where it has a Game Boy Advance emulator in your browser with a bunch of Game Boy games, including 3 Sonic Advance games, or Sonic Advance games, rather.
No way.
Awesome.
No way. In the browser?
In the browser. Now, if you go to that second link, I put it in the show notes.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
Yeah, there you go. Yep.
That's a thing. Sorry, that was a little loud, but that's a thing. I'm playing Sonic.
If you go to that second link I put in the show notes, you're going to go to the GitHub page with all the source code.
I see that. Okay, I'm going there. It's just I started Sonic. All right, yeah, so here it is. Yeah.
Oh. Now think about this. Get a $5 DO server, plug, download the source code, set up a simple web server, and you got your own little personal GBA machine.
This is a great idea.
Yes.
This actually is working pretty good in the browser too.
Yeah, no, I was playing it for about 20 minutes earlier, and it's not bad. I ended up playing actually Sonic Pinball, which is strange. Not Spinball, not the one from the Genesis, Pinball.
Right.
It was an awfully great way to waste time in Chrome. And the best part about this is if you have a 9-to-5 and you can't install stuff on your work computer.
Right, just put it up in a tab.
So put it up in a tab out.
Huh, wow, that's really cool. So we'll have links to that in the show notes. I love the idea too of grabbing this and just putting it on an intranet for staff to mess around with if you have a business, or
absolutely.
Like Mike said, put it up on a Droplet. It's a perfect thing for a Droplet.
Oh, there's also Pokemon and a bunch of other Mario games.
There's a whole bunch. There's a whole bunch like F-Zero, Final Fantasy.
You got a couple of Metroids in there too.
Aladdin, which wasn't actually all that great, but how is Mario in here though?
I didn't try it.
Huh. I'm curious to see if Mario. Look, they have. Oh yeah, GBA. I was thinking.
Well, they're ports, right? The GBA ones are kind of ports, but yeah.
Mario Kart Super Circuit. Yeah, this is awesome.
Yep. If you go to the GitHub page, you can see all that glorious JavaScript source code.
Yeah. Yeah, that is really nice. User scripts and binaries, and they have it all here. And then over in my tab over here, which isn't that game, is I've just launched Super Mario Kart, and in the other tab, I launched Super Mario Advanced.
I sense a Chrome crash coming.
Oh man, this is great.
Use the player. Supercharger brothers. Oh boy.
This is too great. I mean, I know I can't keep playing.
Awesome.
I know we have a show to do. I'm aware that I'm doing.
And more importantly, YouTube's gonna be like,
I know, right? Yeah. I was just trying to figure out what are my keys to go. Okay, there's my. Where's
my? X and C do stuff, and then the arrow
nice,
keys.
man. Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, this is great. This is
classic, right?
I'm gonna show this. I'm gonna show this to my kids when I get home tonight. This is awesome. Wow. That is. I gotta stop right now. Oh man, I'm gonna get a coin though. All right. So you know what I'm gonna do? I think you've inspired me. I think you've inspired me a lot. I think what I'm going to do tonight when I get home is I'm going to set up a DigitalOcean droplet. And you know how I'm going to do that? I'm going to go to DigitalOcean.com. You could do that too, audience. In fact, if you go to DigitalOcean.com and use the promo code CODERDIGITAL, you'll get a $10 credit. And then you can for $5. Check this out. For $5, you can spin up a rig with 512 megabytes of RAM, a 20 gigabyte SSD, 1 CPU, and a terabyte of transfer. More than enough to do that website. And DigitalOcean is a simple cloud hosting provider dedicated, offering the most intuitive and easy way for you to spin up your own rig. So you're really going to get started in no time. Less than 55 seconds, probably. And when you use our promo code, Coder Digital, you get a $10 credit. So the great thing about DigitalOcean is it's a really straightforward, it's intuitive service to spin up your own servers, your own infrastructure on their systems. And they work really well with one-click deployments and Docker images. So if you want to do like a local development, a Docker container on your own rig, and then you just go to DigitalOcean, and with one click you can deploy an Ubuntu 14.04 system up to date with Docker, and then you just go in there, it's yours. You got root access, HTML5 console built into their website. It's really cool, and it's a great way to get something you've been working on up on the web, to let people bang on it publicly, to give some speed to it, to do some real-world testing when you're out on the go, or just not to even have to worry about setting up firewall rules or running a virtual machine. Because for $5 a month, why not? It's so awesome, too, because you got these snapshots. And when you want to make a big change, you want to deploy a big update, or you just want to test something, take a snapshot. It's really easy to take a snapshot. They also have a very straightforward API that makes it like a snap to integrate all of that. And their data centers are all over the world, so you can choose a location close to you or close to your users. They have one in New York. They have several in actually Newark, San Francisco, Singapore, Amsterdam, Germany, and London. The new one in Germany is so awesome because it's sitting right on that central exchange, so all of Germany's neighbors get great access as well. But when you get over on DigitalOcean, remember that promo code, Coder Digital, and try out their interface just for creating the droplets, doing that kind of management. It's really great. You're going to have confidence that you're going to be able to take care of this. I know some of you might be a little concerned you're not a server administrator. You're a developer, you're an end user, you're a power user, you're not necessarily a systems administrator. This interface is going to sort of smooth all of those rough edges over. I mean, at the end of the day, you can SSH into the rig and do whatever you want. You've got root access to this thing. You've even got console access. But the thing that DigitalOcean has really done well is they've made a standards-compliant front end that lets you create the droplets, do full-featured DNS management, take snapshots of your servers to save you configuration time for future deployments too, so you can do templates, one-click installations of things like Ruby on Rails, Docker, GitLab, WordPress, Ghost, so many others. And then they have that straightforward API that you can use to extend that functionality on your own. So as you become more sophisticated, you can take those steps forward. And they have help for you along the way at every step of your process because they have fantastic tutorials. In fact, they're seeking more too, and they're willing to pay. And they're also hiring content editors. So if you're looking for some work and you're a technical writer or a sysadmin, they've got positions open over at DigitalOcean. Go over to DigitalOcean.com. Remember our promo code CODERDIGITAL and save yourself some money. You can try that $5 rig for 2 months, and their pricing structure goes right up very simply, so you can try out the $10 rig and get even more oomph. They also even have hourly pricing, fantastic tutorials. They're hiring for positions, so check out their career pages, and they're accepting great tutorials. In fact, when you're over at DigitalOcean, I'd really like you to go over there and visit and look at their community section. Really, really, really good write-ups. Like how to set up SSH keys. Critical. How to set up OpenVPN on Ubuntu 14.04. How to create an Ansible playbooks to automate system configuration on Ubuntu. It's a great range of stuff. And I'll tell you a secret. They're not specific to DigitalOcean. They'll work for your server too. You can go here and it's just really good stuff. And the best part is it's always there. So when you are ready to take advantage of DigitalOcean, you're really going to get a lot of great value out of your $5 a month. DigitalOcean.com, Coder Digital, and a big thanks to DigitalOcean for sponsoring the Coder Radio program. Mr. Dominic, you just got me thinking when you were talking about the Game Boy emulators in the browser and stuff like that. 2 weeks ago, in episode 365 of the Linux Action Show, we did the emulation game, and we talked about there's like a standalone distro you can get, and it's really nice. And it kind of just like how you can make a Linux box into a media center with like these distros. This just turns it into a dedicated retro console arcade machine. All the different emulators, and it like does auto downloads in the background, gives you a really nice UI for your television. So you can basically put it like on anything from a Raspberry Pi to a spare PC. They have different images for different stuff. And like in the case of the Pi, you just download the SD card image and write it to an SD card. Boom, you're done. And it's a dedicated arcade machine that you can have hooked up to your TV. And we talked about that. Plus, we also talked about standalone emulators for the Linux desktop, including Nintendo 64 and Game Boy and a bunch of other systems that are not like take over your whole machine kind of things, but just standalone applications too. But episode 365 of the Linux Action Show, we dug deep into all that emulation stuff. If you guys are interested. And if you do end up making the switch to Linux, check it out because there's some good, just quick and dirty desktop apps that let you play some of that stuff too. That was episode 365 of the Linux Action Show. Hey, PT Dave submitted something to the subreddit, which might be in sort of a response to what you and I were talking about yesterday, saying, Google, give us more APIs. right? What
yeah.
is this? So he calls it the Google API services, and he submitted it to our subreddit a few days ago. And he writes, in order to make a connection to the Google API, you must start with Google Service Object and initialize the connection with the appropriate scopes. Applying the appropriate client ID and client secret from, and he gives the link, on a native application. The code below will launch a browser window to the appropriate URL and ask the user to enter the information after creating an appropriate admin directory service for the object-only user. And the purpose is to build a clean system for accessing Google Apps APIs in a single library. Ooh. All Google services are built off the base service object, which is initialized by using the Google Services Object. I like this. I like this a lot. And PT Dave is making this too, a longtime listener of the show. Any thoughts, Mr. Dominic?
You know, another wonderful tool from PT Dave.
Yeah, he's a handy guy, isn't he?
I have a theory about PT Dave. I think it's Angela.
What?
I think PT Dave. Have I ever seen
My
PT
wife?
Dave and Angela? Of course, in the same place at the same time.
I don't think you have.
Well,
And this, I guess I don't have any evidence against this, other than I don't think she's a developer yet.
you know, I've learned one thing on the internet, Chris. All you have to do is say something crazy,
That's true.
and people will go with it.
That is very true. That is very true. You know, Mr. Dominic, Google I.O., as we record this, is 2 days, 21
I know.
hours, 4 minutes away.
You'd think if we were organized, we would have somehow coincided a show at Google I/O, but
Well, we talked about it on Friday a bit.
yeah, we could still do that. But I'm excited about this year's I/O, Chris. Do you know why?
No, I don't know why.
I'm excited to see new APIs, as we talked about Friday.
Oh, I do know that, yes. I'll tell you why I'm excited.
Go ahead.
I mean, I don't want to cut you off, but I'll tell you when you're ready.
No, cut me off.
Oh, okay. I think this is the year that Google sniffs a little Microsoft in the water and starts to respond to Microsoft at I/O. The last few I/Os, they've been coming at Apple. Coming at them. Feature for feature. Coming at Apple. Coming at them. This year, they're still going to do that. This is going to be the biggest I/O ever. This is going to be the year they just full on. I think there's going to be. I don't think you're going to hear the word Microsoft on stage. That's next year. This is the year, though, they say something, and it's obvious they mean, like, this is to compete with Microsoft. Maybe it's something in the enterprise space, something against Azure. We just saw a price drop again on Google Cloud Services last week to be more competitive. So I think there's something pretty interesting there. I think we are very focused in on Android. I think Android's in a pretty good spot. They're going to do some stuff that is we'll definitely be talking about. But I think the big changes are going to be Google might go after Instagram a bit. And I think Google Plus is going to be demoted even further. I think they're going to come after Microsoft in the enterprise space more. And I really would like to see them address privacy more and user concerns around that. What do you think? You think I'm getting anything here?
Nope.
Oh, really? Okay, all right. How about this? Microsoft introduces support for Swift.
You're killing my soul. Why
At
would
Google
you?
I/O. At Google I/O. Microsoft comes out during Google I/O and says we're announcing support for Swift, and that's the only thing anybody talks about.
That would be such an epic douche move. I love it.
Yeah, I know, right? I know. Actually, the thing is how do you ever top jumping out of a plane wearing glass? You can't ever top that. Unless you jump out of like a higher, like unless you do like the Red Bull jump kind of thing.
You know what's interesting though? The more showy the product announcement is in tech, the crappier the product. But let's just take down this road. Do you really think another company would try to steal the thunder?
No. I mean, no. I was just kidding about Microsoft trying to do that, just because I do think there is a bit of a enterprise competition brewing there. Here's why I think it's actually going to be a big I/O. Google is doing a few things that they could have saved for I/O, and they're doing them now. Today they just rolled out a new version of Hangouts for Chrome with a whole new interface. So they could have waited to introduce that. Today they also leaked the new Photos app to Ars Technica. So they've announced that they're breaking that out. So they're kind of getting that out of the way instead of saving that for Google I/O. And then they also announced the drop in the Google Cloud pricing late last week. So this is a lot of stuff that they all could have saved for Google I/O that they are instead rolling out right now kind of quietly. Kind of like before WWDC when Apple just kind of quietly updates the MacBook, and that's because they have a brand new computer they're going to introduce and they don't really want to talk about just the small update. So that's what I think Google's doing right now, and I don't know what to make of it. I'll tell you, I have a long shot. I would really like to see Google get serious about Cardboard. I think Cardboard was a little too janky, but if Google could sell like a $25 kit that I could snap a phone into for VR or something like that.
Okay.
And here's why. Because Oculus just screwed over the Linux users. Oculus just abandoned the Linux platform, and
Oh.
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So,
but Chris, wait, Facebook is a web company. They're your friend.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah. So I would love to see that, because remember they just kind of trotted that out last year, and it actually got really pretty popular. Like, did you know there's still people building Google Cardboard VR stuff right now?
Yeah, it's actually pretty cool. I have a buddy who built one. So let me tell you what I really think we're going to see, though, right?
Okay.
I think we're going to see some additional Google Play Services stuff, kind of along the lines of what I was asking for last week, but not as heavy-handed, right? You're still going to have carrier issues. I think I keep hearing this rumor about Brillo, this new OS.
Brillo? No, I haven't heard about this. Tell me about this. I don't know anything about this.
I've heard this rumor twice. I don't think it's real, that they're coming out with a new OS that isn't Android per se for the home.
The Brillo, the new operating system for your home.
Yeah.
Google's OS for the Internet of Things. How did I not hear about this?
I have no idea. I mean, I've only heard about it in one or two blog posts.
So this would be like their version of Ubuntu Snappy. This would be their competitor to Ubuntu Snappy.
Right. It seems weird because you already have Android, which is a kind of,
And Chrome OS. And here, what's this? This is a video? No, okay. This is not what I wanted. Yeah, these are the right. Wouldn't this be interesting if it's coming out of the Nest division?
To say, because they own Nest, and obviously it's going to have some integrations with Android and your whole Google thing. But it seems like a very Google move, right? Because think about all that data they could get from your home.
Yeah, this Gizmodo article says that Brillo has been an internal project for a while. A search of the bug tracker on Google Code Chromium site shows references to Brillo going back to February. A post in the information last week gave a pretty good picture of what the company wants to do with the new operating system. Brillo, designed especially to be lightweight, taking up very little memory, which is perfect for home devices that you control via web interface, like locks and refrigerators and climate controls. They say Brillo will probably be tucked into the Android brand. Google is likely to release the software under the Android brand, as the group developing the software is linked to the company's Android unit. The lower memory requirements for the devices running the new software would make a sharp drop from the latest versions of Android. So they might call it Android, but it's not really Android.
Right, but can't you just think about it, Android Home, right? Something like that.
Right, that's what they'll call it, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's really just Linux. Because it doesn't look like it'll have any of the JVM stuff. And if you take
That's interesting. Will they go JVM? I mean, the JVM's heavy.
No, you can't. You can't, because they're saying here in this that... what they're saying right here. They say that some of these devices, they mentioned some of these devices will have 64 or more likely 32 megabytes of RAM. You can't have the JVM overhead when you only have 32 megs of RAM. You got to run the whole OS and all of the apps and leave space over for future updates. Whee!
So what's the developer interface to it then?
I don't know. System D.
Oh, you're very funny.
I know.
Maybe. I can't.
Yeah, you thinking this is bogus, or
No, I think it's real. I just don't know why they would dump the JVM so quickly.
You know, it's funny though, because what did they do when they had to build Chrome OS?
Right.
Yeah.
Unless that's the direction they go, right? They take some underpinnings from Chrome OS.
I see why I didn't catch this. Is because this was originally ran on the information, which is behind a $1,000 a year paywall.
Okay.
So these are all coming as reports from the paywall.
I mean, could they get a WebKit kind of powered environment done in 32 megs? Maybe.
Maybe. You know, or some tiny little server that.
Unless the processing happens in the cloud. I bet you that's what this is all about. Because think about it, they have the Google App Engine architecture, or whatever they call it now, Google Cloud.
These just have to be little receivers of the commands.
These just have to be dumb terminals. Yeah.
Yeah, and then in a way, you can really extend the functionality up on the Google Cloud, and these things just do real basic stuff.
Darsan in the chat is correct. There is totally embedded capabilities in the JVM. There is an embedded version.
Oh yeah. You think though they would do that?
So I think it's both possible. But would Google rather use web technologies if they can get away with it, or would they rather use the JVM?
I think they're looking at things like Ubuntu Snappy, and they're thinking, we need to be that.
Also, there's the whole, would using the JVM open them to another Oracle beating?
But you think about, they have Dropcam, Revolve, and Nest. All our home automation Internet of Things. They bought some of the 3 biggest.
Yeah, they bought the big 3, right? They bought the 3 most promising home companies.
So it does seem like they would have to design a platform for that because they have the 3 biggest ones right now. The only one they don't have, the other big. What's the other one? Like Samsung owns a big one that I forget. The eThings or Smart Things. Smart Things. That's what it is. Smart Things, which is like the other big one, but I don't know how big. Wow, that is really something intense. I don't know what I have not followed Brillo, so we'll see if Brillo gets announced at Google I/O. Good one, Mr. Dominic.
Again, Darsani is correct. We did interview Mark Heckler from Oracle, and that's exactly the kind of thing he was working on.
Yes,
embedded
stuff. I know they're always working on it. I don't know. I just don't know.
I mean, I think given the choice, Google would probably opt to be. I don't know. I could see a real thing where, like, if you want to develop for this, you have to subscribe to the Google Cloud services or something.
I can't believe these things have 32 megs of RAM. My first computer my main first computer was 1 megabyte of RAM. The one was like mine, and the first computer I ever really did a serious upgrade and had to save up money for a long time. I upgraded that sucker to 16 megabytes, and now we're talking 32 megs of RAM for these things.
I don't know if I buy it. I'm trying to think of how they would do this with like V8 and JavaScript, and I don't know why you would do it that way. Like, I'm not suggesting you couldn't, and certainly if anybody could, Google could, but...
Actually, with 32, they might be doing the JVM. Because why do you need 32 megs of RAM?
Why not? I mean, or the only thing I could think is some sort of legal issue with Oracle, right? Why wouldn't you just go for the JVM? There's tons of other companies writing embedded stuff in Java, right?
Here's why. The only reason I was thinking avoid JVM is because the competition operating systems are all just straight up Linux. And so that's what a lot of people are going to be writing these things for, and that does give you the best performance. And
but if you're going to have software running on these devices, and you're presumably going to open it to some sort of interface, Well, so we don't know, right? Is this something that you have to buy Google or Nest products, or is this like an OS they're going to share with everybody that you can put on your products?
Because I think it's going to be for everybody because they need that sensor data. It's all about those metrics. They just need to be there, even if it's just your IP. That's anything. If they can get anything from any insights, they can get your network layout, how many devices on your network, broadcast information, or just the IP address and location you're connecting from. They will take it.
Then if that's true, I mean, if you give up the JVM, you give up a lot of mind share, right? I don't know. I'm curious because now I'm reading the chat room as we go by. People have heard wildly different things. It looks like.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking when I'm thinking 32 and 64 megabytes of RAM. At first, I was like, "Geez, that's not very much." But now I'm thinking,
no, that's enough. You could get away with that.
Now that I kind of changed my perspective and I think a little bit more about like what I've done with less RAM in the past.
Right. I mean. 64 megs is fine.
Yeah. Yeah, 64 for sure.
I guess I'm trying to figure. So you're saying this is going to be like an AOSP kind of thing?
Yeah. Well, that's what they're saying. Here's what I think it is. I think it's a straight up more like Chrome OS Linux machine that they've tucked under the brand Android because people give Google a hard time for having too many OSs, having too many things. So they know that. Like they way slow down on the Android updates too because they're getting too much of a hard time. And
you think it's going to be Chrome OS powered?
No, I think it's going to be obfuscated from us. I think they're going to try very hard to make it sound like it's Android, and I think if you got to look under the hood, you're just going to see like Chrome OS. It's a Linux box with a single binary running, or the Chromecast.
Right, but what is Android? A Linux box with a JVM or a Dalvik VM?
And
right?
No, they've ripped out a lot of the lower parts too, and it's probably very stripped down. Here's why I was thinking it would be a stripped down machine: is A, they got to make it cheap, and B, the less memory you put in these things, the cheaper it is for people to use them and manufacture them. So if I'm, Acer, because Acer's been talking about getting into the Internet of Things business a lot, and I want to manufacture 5 million of these devices, well, if I can save $3 a device, that might make a decision for me. Seriously, that might make a huge decision for me. So Google's got to be cognizant of that, and it's got to know that, yes, the JVM brings a lot more functionality, brings a lot more developers, but at the end of the day, the bean counters are making a decision on which device can we manufacture and make a profit from. And there's this one that costs us $3 less. It'll run Spark OS, which is Linux-based, and that's ready to go.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure I buy that. I'm not sure that they couldn't do a version of the JVM embedded system that wouldn't work within those memory constraints. I mean, I think they absolutely can. And do you see what I'm saying? I don't. By having an open system with a platform that, 10 millions of developers understand, I don't know if millions maybe is an overstatement, but might be true. That seems like it would be a no-brainer and would quickly set the standard, right? Remember the old Microsoft line, we set the standard? Mm-hmm. I mean, I could be wrong, but I feel like 32 megs is more than sufficient. Like, I don't see why they would make a compromise when they could just go with the JVM.
So let's go with this. Let's say they do this. Let's say and if Google truly wanted to own this market,
right, they
could subsidize the cost of the hardware. So let's go 64 megs, and let's say Google throws in $25 a device or something. And here's where I'm getting with this. I am so freaking impressed with how the entire industry just went Android. Like, I'm not talking for phones. I'm talking for like all these little things, all these little tiny devices just run Android now. And the way it was explained to me by Aaron Seigo, because he was trying to build a tablet, is he says, when you go to these Chinese manufacturers, they can wrap their heads around Android as something to build against. They can build against Android because it's a full product. They can call up Google. They get support. They can build to spec. I called them up and I said I wanted a Linux machine and I needed these specs. They were completely lost. There was a language barrier. They didn't understand. It's not how they're used to taking orders. When we said build it to the Android spec, it was problem-free, slick right through, no issue. So I am really super impressed with, because I think the market recognized, hey, here's this Linux-based operating system. It's really solid, and it's backed by this massively successful American company. This is something we can base our products on and have a little bit of stability with, a little bit of safety as far as these things go. And so if they came out and offered essentially the same deal for an Internet of Things OS, my take on that is it would have just the same amount of success that Android has for these types of devices, even more so.
That's my point. Right. It's familiar ground for everybody.
Here's the problem. I don't know if you just read, but just late last week, Mark Shuttleworth in an interview said he thinks Canonical has a very compelling story around the Internet of Things device category, and he thinks that he can take Canonical IPO'd. He can IPO the company around the market potential for them delivering that operating system. But if Google comes in on Thursday and announces this, they're going to basically cut the knees right out from underneath Canonical on this initiative, I think.
Yeah, that's a problem for Canonical.
Yeah.
I mean, why? I mean, just to backtrack a second, Azer in the chat has a good point. There's also the Android NDK, right? The native development kit. Mm-hmm. So that would be an option if you were really feeling memory constrained, if you were developing software against these devices. But so you're saying, you're now saying that you think it is going to be Android because you think they want to take Canonical out of the knees?
No, I know. No, I don't. I think you're getting lost in the weeds there. I don't think it matters if it's Android or if it's
right. I think what Canonical does matters. I think the platform it's built on does matter.
Canonical
is
going to be based on Ubuntu Linux, their Snappy core. I think. Right. My bet would be that the Google Brillo stuff is also real basic Linux. They'll call it Android for home, but it's just super basic Linux.
Right, but you on all these things, right? On Snappy core, there are APIs. Depending on how much memory you have, you can put things like the JVM on to develop your business app, whatever it is. Yeah. I don't necessarily know. This is probably going to be interesting because this could either be another, Google Glass, or this could be huge. And I think this will actually be huge, right?
I think so because they've got those companies.
Yeah, they've got those companies. They have the design sense that's something that used to be lacking for them, right, with Nest.
It's so core to sensor data, which is so core to their advertising business. It's like it's so aligned with their priorities as a business. It's kind of a mistake if they don't do this in a way.
I wonder, though, I mean, I don't think Google announcing this necessarily kills Canonical's effort either, right?
Yeah, I think Canonical could really run away with it, though, if because they have a pretty good brand. They have, pretty good market presence already on cloud. So if they could come in and say, here's Snappy, and we have Snappy packages, and it's a transactionally updated rolling operating system for your Internet of Things devices, and it uses the Ubuntu you know and love, I think that'd be a pretty good story. Until Google came around and said, hey, you know that Android that runs on all the devices in the world? Yeah, well, now you can run that on your Internet of Things, and you'll have the same support, and we're going to keep updating it, and this is a competitive area for us. And, man, it doesn't ruin Canonical's game, but, oh, man, talk about the biggest #1 competitor that could possibly come in. I mean, like, Microsoft could introduce an Internet of Things OS, any other company in the world, and it wouldn't have the same level of impact as Google doing it.
Well, Microsoft is doing this, right? They have a SKU for Windows 10.
Oh, yeah, it's adorable. You're right. I forgot about that. It's really cute. And you could almost run it on a Raspberry Pi now.
Oh.
Hey, Mr. Dominic, before we get into our feedback this week, I want to take a moment and give the audience a pro tip. Linux Academy is a great way for you to get your skills up to the next level, challenge yourself, and maybe even give yourself a little more confidence. LinuxAcademy.com/coders is where you go to get our Coder Radio discount. Linux Academy is built by enthusiasts who really, truly love Linux open source and all the technologies that surround that ecosystem. They have step-by-step video courses, comprehensive study guides you can take with you, listen on the go, or read. 7+ distributions you get to choose from, and they'll adjust the courseware to match those distributions, which is so sweet. They have self-paced courses for you, scenario-based labs, so you'll actually work through a real-life scenario in an advanced lab environment from beginning to end. Instructor help is available when you need it. And I've mentioned this before, but they just recently rolled out this new feature called Nuggets. It's genius. It's bite-sized information to make you better at a task that you probably do quite a bit. It doesn't necessarily fit in a course, but it's great. Single video courses, these nuggets here. Here's a new one. Building a firewall with IP tables. Boom. One course. Creating a Pixie boot server. Setting up single sign-ons with Linux. A course on Active Directory. What's new in Ubuntu 15.04. Deploying packages. Open file management. Systemd versus system init scripts. All this stuff, SSH passwords, sending email from the command line, HTTP at the command line, writing ISO images, encrypting folders, nuggets. Just go in, learn one topic, get out. It's such an awesome idea. Linux Academy has all kinds of courses, all kinds of technology, OpenStack, Python, PHP, Android, Amazon Web Services, Dev, Ops, Ruby on Rails, Linux, and of course Red Hat, Ubuntu, Debian, all those Linux distributions. And they just rolled out their new Red Hat Certified Systems Administrator course. Go check that out. Lots of new content just went live in the last couple of weeks. Their DevOps Essentials is available now. AWS CSA Pro available as well to those Pro members in the Founders Club. And the OpenStack courses have gotten a recent update as well. Go check out those nuggets, though. That's so cool. Start by going to linuxacademy.com/coders. That'll give you our Coder Radio discount, and you'll see what a great service this is. A platform built by people truly passionate about the subject matter. And what a difference that really makes. Not just some sort of dumping ground where you can go get somebody and write them a check so they'll put something up on your site, but a site created by people truly passionate, that truly care and want to make this stuff better adopted. And one thing I love about that is when they're available, it's like when these courses come online, it's like the best stuff first. Like their Docker stuff, they had courseware on Docker before everybody else, and it's still better than anybody else's because these guys really get it. LinuxAcademy.com/coders. And a big thank you to Linux Academy. And also keep sending in those success stories. It is really awesome to hear about you guys working with Linux Academy and getting jobs or getting certified and helping, just maybe feeling a little better after you've gotten sort of kicked around a bit. It's great, and I love it too. You will too. LinuxAcademy.com/coders, and a big thank you to Linux Academy for sponsoring the Coder Radio program. Okay, Mr. Dominic, are you prepared for feedback? Are you ready for this? Because I got a radical idea for you that I don't think you've considered yet.
I am ready for it. Let's do this.
Listener Matt writes in. He says, hey, Chris and Mike, given Mike's enthusiastic plea that OS X users in the audience send copies of Mike and Alan's book to Apple. Remember Alan's new book, zfsbook.com? Alan wrote the book on ZFS, and it just came out. He says, I'd like to suggest an alternative to Mike, though. Oh, here you go, Mike. He's got an alternative.
Ooh.
Yes. Let's see.
Oh, wait!
I know it's hard to believe, but there's already a desktop-ready Unix environment that includes ZFS right out of the box.
Computer, what happened?
Yeah, that's right. I says, Mike, no need to go to the land of large egos and copyleft licenses to use open source software. You can join us in the PCBSD world where freedom means whatever you want it to. We have a wonderful modern file system. We don't need Docker just to provide consistent user lands for our applications. Sincerely, someone who switched from Linux to BSD 3 years ago and hasn't looked back.
Hello, everybody.
So that's so he's saying PCBSD. Now, one of the really nice things about PCBSD is they have the PBI. Well, there's a few things. They have the PBI installer, so you just download a package and install it. You don't have to worry about dependencies and things like that. They have the rollback updates, so you can boot back into your old environment after an update. And they've also integrated ZFS snapshots into the file manager, so you can go back and recover files right in the file manager. The only areas where it really falls down is if you're doing heavy multimedia stuff or you want to play video games, and all of the BSD fans will be like, you can run Steam, you can play video games. Don't listen to them. They're delusional. So that's it's like, if you want to have like a super sexy laptop and you want to have like USB 3.0 devices and Thunderbolt devices and you want to have video cameras and you want to have 3D accelerated graphics playing the latest games from Steam available for Linux, and the greatest Wi-Fi chip available. Most of those things will work with BSD, but not all of them like they do under Linux. If those things are like, those are not really things I'm going to use my computer for. If it's more like web browsing, email, writing code in Visual Studio Code or Sublime Text, yeah, PCBSD can do that, and it can do it probably maybe better than Linux can long term because you got ZFS, you got those rollbacks after unsuccessful updates. You can just from the boot menu choose to boot back into your previous environment. You got the PBI installer, so packages management's a lot easier, and we also know the guy that makes it. That helps too.
All right, so let me ask you a question about BSD. What is it again? No, I'm kidding. Why would I want to use BSD? Because let's be honest, isn't half the fun of Linux the drama?
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Well, that depends on your distro of choice. There's some pretty drama-free distros out there, but
Ubuntu is not one of them.
Right, correct. Correct. That'd be correct. So why BSD? To be honest with you, consistency. The entire operating system is designed by one team, pretty much. So the tools are consistent, the documentation is consistent. It doesn't change that radically. So there's not different team priorities there. Stability. It's a very good workstation. All of the things that make it boring to me make it a very good workstation.
Interesting.
I find it to be boring. I find it to be an OS that leads in some area and is always following in other areas. Hypervisors, boot environments. They're now creating their own systemd. These are areas where I feel like they're constantly following, but then in other areas, consistent updates, user land separation from the system and user applications, consistent documentation, well designed. The FreeBSD Foundation I like the way they establish. I also prefer the discourse in their community more often. But at the same time, I don't feel it's an innovative space or as exciting space to me. And part of that is the thrill of really truly watching technology be designed and developed in front of me when I use Linux to a degree.
Damn. Well, I'm using BSD right now.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh no,
it's running the advanced Darwin technology and the Mach kernel.
No.
What? What do you mean no? Wait.
No.
What do you mean no?
So, Chris Moore makes it. Chris Moore co-hosts the BSD Now podcast with Alan Jude, and Chris Moore's brother makes the Lumina desktop, which is a Qt-based desktop that they're making for PCBSD. And it's nice, man. It's pretty nice. I actually think they're kicking a lot of ass over there.
I'll definitely check it out. Right. I mean, right now I think I am looking at Ubuntu for when I get a new rig, which is further and further every day.
Yeah, I just recently had a big dramatic breakup with Ubuntu over the last couple of weeks.
What?
I had a couple of real bad days in the studio. I'd gone Ubuntu 14.04 LTS, and updates ended up breaking sound for me still, and I just ended up having a lot of the problems that I have when I roll rolling distributions. Actually, take that back, man. I have less problems. So I actually pulled off Ubuntu 14.04 from the machine that you and I are talking on right now, and it's back to Arch because, as crazy as this sounds, It is. I have consistently better luck experiences under Arch.
You're saying Arch was more stable than Ubuntu LTS?
Just for me, I don't think it is for any other single human being on the planet. But for some reason, and it is undeniably, like, I put Ubuntu in there, and within a couple of months, every time I almost have a breakdown. It's so it fails me so badly that it's like, okay, Rikai, I need you to stop what you're doing, come into the studio, and replace that operating system right now before I do another show. I will not do another show until that's gone. That's how bad it is. And then we sit down, we put Arch on it, and every single time, it's totally fine, except there's like one wiggly thing that comes along. So it's still very frustrating. So I just say, be open to other ideas than Ubuntu, but I think you'd have a great time with Ubuntu as well. Ubuntu Mate could be another great option, and Antergos Linux is worth.
Yes.
You know what you ought to do? Why not put Antergos Linux on there for like 3 days with GNOME 3 and just see what you think for like 3 days?
3 days?
It's not hard, right?
3 days of Antergos.
Yeah, Miker89 remembers because he was there. I had to. So Sunday, Linux Action Show started 2 hours late, and then the next Tech Talk, I just had to cancel, and we just recorded me troubleshooting because I couldn't do a show because of the problems I had. So I'm not putting that back into production again.
Let me tell you what happened to me this morning, Chris. I got a coupon from Dell for like 40% off. And I was like, oh boy. And of course, when I went to use the coupon, guess what?
It's expired.
Can't use it on that device.
Oh, I hate that.
Yes. So.
Were you trying to get the XPS 13?
I think, yeah, I set myself on the XPS 13.
The XPS 13 is solid. I think the Yoga 3 is also a pretty good option. Just saying.
Yes, but Yoga 3 is made by you.
Lenovo. That's true.
Lenovo. I don't.
That is true. It is a nice rig, though. You know what, though? Chrome just got high DPI support under Linux. It's blowing my mind. Hey, we got one more feedback to get to before we get out of here. And I knew you answered him in the subreddit, but I thought this might be a good conversation to do an update with the audience. So your boy Addy writes in, I hear a lot about it from the Silicon Valley types, and I've always considered it to be like one of those motivational speeches. He's talking about getting things done. You know, one of those things to make people feel all good about themselves. But I started to get curious, and I decided to read a bit about getting things done. He writes like a used car salesman, talks, but I like to think if so many people use it, it can't be BS. Has anyone tried it, and what are your thoughts about GTG, or getting things done? What do you think, Mr. Dominic, about GTG or other things like maybe the Pomodoro Technique?
Yeah, I mean, the whole like GTD thing, right? It's kind of like Agile to me. It started off as, you know, little tips and then turned into this crazy, this is how you do things.
Yeah, a model for life.
Right. So do I do GTD? Well, I do the Pomodoro Technique for programming because I have zero discipline when it comes to email. And if I don't do the Pomodoro Technique, I will be responding to emails pretty much nonstop, which means at the end of the day, nothing will get done, which is an abusive cycle because in the following day, I get angry emails and phone calls because nothing got done.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And then also, you just also feel bad. You just feel bad about it, too. Which is
and then you like mentally become more and more jaded, and of course that reflects. And you can see how this is a vicious cycle of getting slapped around.
Yeah, man.
Having said that, I don't go any further than the Pomodoro Technique because I just don't. I'm not a big system guy, like in terms of... I've tried the Kanban board things. I've tried the like the burn down chart of your tasks. I use Wunderlist, but even then I'm not too disciplined about it.
Yeah, I think it's sort of the same thing. You can go too far with any of these systems, and they almost become a religion. They almost become like a model that you have to follow, which then it becomes a crutch. And then if you can't follow that model, you can't function. And I think that's why I resist a little bit about adopting these things too enthusiastically, because I don't want to become dependent on them. That said, I do think I am starting to come towards some sort of work balance that I think could use a system. And what it is I am trying to stand more, I am trying to move around a little bit more, and I'm trying to give myself more breaks so that way I'm not at the end of the day totally exhausted. I'm trying to pace myself a little more, so that way I'm not like just spending myself, and then by the end of the week I'm dragging, right? Yeah. So I could see where a system would help me sort of accomplish that. I find that I just need something with a lot more flexibility because every day for me is a little bit different than the past. And so no one system works so well for me. So I've read the GTG book. David Alan Grier, right? He's the one that wrote that.
Right.
I read that and didn't work. Didn't work for me. Not about all labels, all that stuff doesn't work.
Yeah,
but
it doesn't.
Calendars, I'm sticking more to blocks. So what I have done now is I allow myself to do a thing for blocks of time. So this will be my report time. Then I'm going to write up some reports for some sponsors. This is going to be some research time over here, and then I work within that block. And then when I'm done with that block, I ask myself, do I want to keep working, or is this the point I would like to give myself permission to take a break? And I sometimes opt not to take that break, and sometimes I say, you know what, this is the point I'm going to opt to take that break. And sometimes that just means I get up, get some water, order a sandwich, whatever, and then get back to it. And that's been working for me. But, I think you got to find different people like different models with different amounts of rigidness as well.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I like lists, right? I like issue lists or lists of features that need to be done, stuff like that. Like give me a bar to fill or to empty, and I'm pretty much in better shape.
Yeah.
Which is why I love GitLab's bug tracker so much, because it gives you like the % complete, just like GitHub's does.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I really don't buy into the whole. I mean, I've seen guys do like they do a poster board.
Yes.
Of just like little tickets and little post-it notes and like lines from thing to thing, and I don't bother.
Oh, but it's so cool looking. But that
is... it's like the appearance of hard work, right? It looks like you're working really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's usually a bad sign in my experience.
Right.
Well, Mr. Dominic, if somebody wanted to give us some feedback, they could go over to coderradio.reddit.com. That'd be great. Or they go to jupiterbroadcasting.com/contact and choose in, probably Coder Radio. Because that's probably the one you want to send feedback to, because you're listening to Coder Radio right now.
Yes.
That would probably be a good idea. We do this show on a Monday. You can find out more at jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar. We'd love your reviews in iTunes if you wouldn't mind leaving us a nice one. If you don't want to leave us a nice review, email us and tell us why, and we'll try to fix it. And then in the future, maybe you can leave us a nice review after we fixed it. Those reviews, and we like to ask that you maybe focus on the MP3 feed. And all of that is because, guess what? We were just talking about this before the show. iTunes still remains one of the #1 ways people find podcasts. It's not the #1 anymore, I think. Maybe it is, but it's still up there if it's not. And the way the iTunes systems works is when you leave a couple of comments and a couple of reviews, it doesn't take more than maybe a dozen, and then it starts moving up really fast in the charts because people don't take the time to do that very often. So even though there's thousands of podcasts in iTunes, listeners never really take the time to do that. So it really helps quite a bit. So if you do want to help more people find the show, that'd be another way. Or another thing that would be a ton of help is if you have a podcast catcher out there, like Pocket Cast or something out there that doesn't have Coder Radio listed for some reason, maybe contact your favorite podcast client author, and ask them to add the Coder Radio program. That'd be really helpful. Mr. Dominic, is there anywhere you'd like to send folks throughout the week?
Just at Dumanuco on Twitter.
Nice. I have a new Twitter account, so you have to follow me again. We swapped around. My old Twitter account is now the official network account, so you can follow that. It's at Jupiter Signal. You probably already are if you were following me before. And I'm Chris LAS, but it's under a new account. So you got to go find me and re-follow me because I renamed an old account. So you're not following me, very likely. And that's a great place to follow me to get updates. And it's going to be more of my personal stuff on my account, Chris LAS, network stuff on Jupiter Signal. All right, join us next week on Monday. Thanks so much for being here, everybody. See you right back here next week.